employment. I said, come to my office and take a test. If you are true, I'll employ you. There and then we went and he took us a test and we passed the test. And then he started us with the telegraph room. We were almost 30 in numbers, but at the time of the course, it was only two of us that remained and passes the exam after 18 months.
You and who?
Myself and Mr. Ture. Mr. Ture's son is now a manager in Gamtel. He's responsible for the test board for telephone testing. Mr. Ture, yes, he was a Georgian. We were the only two people that remained on the badge. Mr. Randall was there, who was at the education department. He was amongst the batch, and many other young people, but we were the only two that remained on the batch.
Tell me your experiences as a telecoms officer in the colonial period.
I have worked with the radio department in those days when Gambia was only manned by telegraph system, rather than lasses, you know. That was only available from here to the prevent. All the administration was done by dot and lasses telegraph, you know, senior commissioners to all commissioners in the provinces. You know, that was the time telegraph was at its high peak, you know, because then there was no telephone link between us and the...
So messages were sent via telegraph?
By telegraph.
Very well.
We used to have batch of messages of 500 words and the like. And when we put on our headphones from 8 in the morning, it's only at 1 o'clock that we put it off. In the days of atmospheric interferences, when unlike today when that has been screened off and all that, some of us have suffered from the plight of deafness and all that, you know. So that was the period of telegraph. We worked with ships and all that, you know. So the administration was run by telegraph to linking the province and the Gambia. Thank you.
These telegraphic messages were in codes.
Exactly. Yes, Malik, they were in codes. They were in codes. Some of them came in dot and dashes, some of them came in quotes, some of them came in secret languages, because that was applicable during the wartime, because there was a special book made of secret languages, 5-letter codes that we take to decipher, you know, and to know where the enemy is and all that. That book was only handled by the chief wireless operator in his office, because that book was shared between Britain and all over the British colonies, you know, as secret war codes. Yes.
So this was not to allow the enemy to get hold of the message and decipher the codes.
So
right. The codes it has to be very special codes.
That's right.
Which you were only able to decode yourselves.
That's right. That's right.
Very well. And then let's look at the telecoms. You mentioned from 300 lines to 1,000 lines. How did this happen?
Well, this happened when we began with manual board exchanges, you know, by generating 17 cycles from one end to the other through operating board. You have to wind up a small generating motor, which is just like this Taylor's machine, and that generates 17 cycles to the other end of the exchange. And when it reaches there, it opens a porthole where you can see the signal coming in, or you can hear it, you know, to your ears, that the 17 cycle is ringing, so that you should be able to pick up the subscriber and to connect it with another subscriber. That was the manual board exchange time. And it not until in 1950 when this country entered into automation, and the first exchange was the Stauger system. And that goes on for a very long time, up to the 60s and 70s, you know, and that caters only for, the manual board caters for 300 lines, And then later on, when the automation came in, and we did the 1958 extension with the General Electric Company engineer, Mr. Mason, and we extended the line to 1,000 lines, and from there on until when the digital
Era came in.
exchange came in, so that's how this transformation came, because we should have gone on to the other system of automation, which was sustained by Dakar. But late we jumped all over those systems and went to digital system. So we were very lucky to have very advanced communication over the years.
When I read your autobiography, I came across a point wherein you traveled, you worked on board ships, and you are a radio officer there. Tell me your experiences as a radio officer on board the ships.
Yes, because what qualifies me to become a radio officer, because here it was all the local training, but I read with London School of Telegraphy at Barnard's Hearts, and obtained my RO, my Postmaster General certificate, and that entitles me to travel in the Atlantic Ocean. This was the reason why I was the only person here, apart from the other radio officers that were in Britain and others, entitled to travel on big ships, as radio officer close to the captain's office, and to feed the captains with all the data and information, piloting and all that, and so on and so on. So that was why in 1964 I took the Gambia Her Majesty's vessel to Spain on repairs on Blandi Balarero. And that makes me to reflect with some of my contemporaries in the same circles that are now gone, and only one or two are remembering, like Duda Adamanjai, like Lamin Ture, who was the electrical man on board. Adama was an engineer, and Asan Drame, who is now alive, Pickup and Kuka, all were on board the ships, in 1964 when we took the Gambian vessels to Spain. In 1978 too, I was the radio officer and the technical officer on board the Mansakila Bar 3. We took the present Jawara to Guinea Conakry and Guinea-Bissau.
I would like to interrupt you here and read you a portion in your autobiography which says, "There again, Captain turns to me, asking me to contact by radio the Guinea-Conakry pilot to lead us in. I then opened my radio frequency, 500 megahertz, basically a pilot frequency, and after calling Mansa Kiliba 3, the Gambia Presidential Youth, Mansa Kiliba 3, the Gambia Presidential Youth, calling Guinea-Conakry. Pilot solemnly, the Conakry pilot appears on frequency on the voice, acknowledging my transmission. Captain then gave the position of the ship to relay. Then pilot adhered to captain orders. I carefully relayed it to the pilots who have acknowledged our position. Pick us up after 20 minutes, lead us into Conakry Gateway."
That was the period in which we traveled. That was our arrival to Guinea-Conakry, and I'm proud to say that on board the Mansakila 3, that boat was manned by all Gambians. We were captained by Captain Babukar Sala, one of our best Gambian captains. Although we had very much difficulties at the beginning of the voyage, because our boat does not have compass lock, whereby when the waves are swinging, the ship is swinging with it, and then it goes back to its original position. He had to keep on deep sounding navigation in order to control the boat all the way to Conakry. And that was when I started fishing for the Conakry pilot to lead us into the Conakry harbor. There again we were received by President Secretary, who lodged us in his palace for several days. That was a wonderful trip we have ever had. And he was so proud of the Gambians that, because from captain, first engineer, radio officer, and sailors were all Gambians. It was a very proud trip we had. from there to Guinea.